Let's talk about Trump and tariffs. Okay, so we're a major trading partner with the USA. We run a deficit of trade with the USA. We help you bastards out in every single ideological war that you dragged us into, going back from Vietnam. We were even there in Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq. What else? There was one more. I forget what it was, but um, yeah, it's that blood for oil. That was, yeah, George Bush. I thought he was the stupidest fucking president out, but you got to Trump a second time. That's how dumb you cunts are. Anyway, so trade, tariffs. We don't have any tariffs on USA. You reckon Trump told so many lies? He tells them so many. It's 40,000 lies he's up to almost. Fact check lies. He said that we don't take US beef, and that's bullshit. There's been for quite a few years, there's been an agreement in place that USA beef can come in, but it has to have a certificate saying it was born, raised, and killed on US soil because you guys don't track foot and mouth and mad cow disease. The other thing too is you pump your beef so full of bloody hormones and shit that it's basically crap anyway. Our beef's probably the best in the world. It's got all the wagyu and everything. We don't see that. That goes straight to Japan. Um, but even in Australia, it's too expensive to eat all the time. It's I had some tonight that I did into a mushroom curry, but that's probably once a month that I'd eat beef. Like most countries now, if I'm going to eat meat, it's mostly chicken, but we don't put steroids or hormones in any of our food. It's pretty good compared with American food. We still got shit products, but they're mostly shit American products like your Coca Cola and your fucking Nescafe shit, your Purina shit for dogs, and it's all fucking shit basically. So I try and ignore all that. I'm blacklisting all American stuff. Like I've bought quite a few Martin. I collect ukuleles, watches, books, and skateboards. They're my and motorbikes. All my motorbikes are Ducatis, so that's not American. I hate Harleys. You're either a Harley rider or you're not. I'm not a Harley rider. I'm more of a cafe rider. Anyway, so I've probably spent over the years, $10,000 on American ukuleles in the Martin and the Gibson brands. I brought stuff over secondhand off Reverb, so Americans are getting money off me. Belova watches, I've got about 24, because I know I've got a double case of Belova stuff, about 24 of them I've been collecting since COVID. Every time I got a few $100 spare, I just buy one that's on special that I like for my collection. The other thing I've been collecting more recently is skateboard decks, the Santa Cruz products, independent trucks, Ace trucks, all your wheels. Used to drink a little bit of JD, sorry, a little bit of Jim Beam. I liked your Miller with the lime in it. That was one of the first companies to put the lime in. Yeah, a lot of American stuff, and not going to buy it until Trump goes. Like, I couldn't believe it when he got in 2016. He just never would have got a Guernsey based on his grab 'em by the pussy comment in Australia or England. And, we got a reputation of being a convict country and, pretty rough blokes and stuff like that. But there's no way we would have voted someone like that in. He's a fuckwit, He wouldn't pass the pub test, the pub sniff test, whatever you call it. But yeah, those tariffs, he said he would only tariff any country that was having a surplus with them. We have a deficit with them. And just all the lies he tells about everything. It's just ridiculous. And the fact that people believe him, like, get off bloody Fox News. Like, as an Aussie, I'm actually embarrassed about Murdoch, but he practiced his craft in Australia. He brought governments down in Australia with his newspapers and stuff like that. And then he just went over to America and just worked on his strategy there. And it's just, Trump's good for the media, the left and the right. Like, when Biden was in, you hardly heard anything about Biden. It was all Trump, 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 Trump all the time. And it was, if Biden fell off his push bike, oh, that was big news. But Trump couldn't even ride a fucking push bike. I'd put my house on a triathlon. Okay, let's get Trump and Biden doing a triathlon because I've done three Ironman and 24-hour mountain bike racing and shit like that. And I reckon if you've got a 100-meter swim, right, a 1 kilometer, a 5 kilometer push bike, and a 1 kilometer run, okay, I reckon Biden could do that. It might take him an hour. So we're talking about 100 meters to swim, 5 kilometer bike, and a 1 kilometer run. Trump wouldn't make that at all. He even thought he was fitter than Obama. I got a picture of Trump where he's in his golf uniform with his big boy pants pulled up to his man boobs beside Obama, who's standing on a fucking what's those paddleboard, bare chested. Obama's got bloody definition. Plus, I love listening to the guy. I could go to sleep listening to him do a speech. But Trump, oh man, there's only one person that's got a worse voice than Trump. That's MTG. Marjorie Taylor Greene. God, don't get me started on her. But yeah, I was really talking about the Trump and his tariffs, but man, he's pissed off the world. And Trump 1.0, I lost 80K due to his COVID handling. Like he fucked that up. He fucked up the world with inflation, and they blame Biden for inflation, but inflation takes quite a while to tick up and tick down. And it was Trump's handling of COVID. He didn't look after the supply chains. Shipping went up from like $1,000 a container to $2,000 a container almost overnight, and he's responsible for that because he just played down COVID so badly, and the world went into a recession. He lost millions of jobs. Biden's put them back on. Yeah, inflation was coming up, but towards the end of his term, it was ticking down. And your price of eggs was actually going down. They've gone back up again under Trump again. So, yeah, and Trump blamed Biden for the fuel. Biden did one of the best moves. Well, I don't know if it was him, but it's his administration, so he can take credit. They actually sold most of your reserves at sky-high prices to OPEC and then bought back cheaply when it crashed the price. And that crashed OPEC and it got fuel down. And he was drill, baby, drill much more than Trump because Trump couldn't organise a route in a brothel with a fistful of $20 notes. He couldn't run a chook raffle. He's that fucking bad. He's bankrupted 6 companies, including the casino 3 times. He's had about 20 Trump-endorsed things, including the Trump University. And, man, we knew back in 1988 he was a fucking criminal. He tried to get a casino licence out here, and our feds did the due diligence on him and said, no, fuck off, mate. You've got bloody ties to the mafia here, organised crime, back in not in Australia, in America. We don't want your type running it. We've got our own criminals. I probably didn't say that, but show me someone who runs a casino that's not a criminal. Anyway, and he talks about weaponising the courts, weaponising the justice system. That's how I call him Mr. 50% because he only ever bloody paid 50 cents on the dollar to most of his contractors. So all the mum and dads who are plasterers and fit out things or cleaners or any of the low, well, they're not low, they're the backbone of society, but according to Trump, people have to do manual labour because he's never done a day of manual labour in his life. Even at McDonald's, he was there for like 20 minutes. He couldn't even work anything out. He was that fucking stupid. He wouldn't get a job sweeping the car park in McDonald's. That's how bad he is. But yeah, he's ruined everything. Trump University had to pay millions of dollars. He's ripped off all the mum and dad companies, and he weaponises the courts by taking them to court and bankrupting them so they can't, because he just puts injunctions on and all this sort of stuff. Just what he did with the whole bloody 92 or so indictments he had, 34 felonies he's got. Anyone else who threatened the court, remember that Sam Bankman-Fried? He was some crypto dude, and he just tried to intimidate one witness by a post on Facebook or something. He was picked up straight into jail before the court case even started. Trump's done that to thousands of people. People have actually disappeared under Trump. The two 14-year-old girls, they don't want to talk about it anymore. They've magically disappeared. I don't know if they exist anymore or if they were threatened or paid off. And, the NDA over the Stormy Daniels thing, they say, no crime was committed. But he falsified records to make him look better going into it, the election, and then he claimed it as election fees, and he claimed it 34 times in his book. And that's why it's a fucking felony. There was about 3 different what you call misdemeanors, which when combined with the concealment is the crime, which was 34 times. And that's why the jury didn't have to agree on which were the crimes they were going to commit him on, because there were 3 separate times he breached it at 34 times. It's a bit hard for the average MAGA brain to understand, but it was a jury of his peers in the town that he was born in. Well, not born in. He's actually a Queens person. He was never accepted into Manhattan, but he did his business in Manhattan. And that's why he's so dirty. His tax stuff, he bloody cheated on that. There's another $500 million that the overseer has seen in more frauds, but because he's a fucking president, that just disappears, or it may hit him later, but he's going to die in the next couple of years. How can he must have people replacing his organs and that, and he's probably the guy who's taking all the kids for the adrenal gland stuff that all the QAnon people talk about, because it's all projection and confession with them. Like, they say, I've got TDS, but TDS is actually anyone in MAGA. Fake news and mainstream media, that's just anything that's against Fox or any of those Breitbarts and stuff like that. Like, you got to take all the media. I watch some Fox. I don't watch Newsmax because that's just pathetic. I watch a little bit of Fox. I watch Midas Touch. I watch MSN. I watch NBC. I watch CNN. And like the head of CNN, he was MAGA. And CNN 50-50 gave him a good time and a bad time with some of their stuff. And he talks about NBC or whatever, CBS I think it is, who did the 60 Minutes interview, editing something to change the answer for Kamala. His stuff is edited, highly edited, and he has, like, Fox's propaganda for him. We have Sky News in Australia, and it's just the same. Like, for every 99 articles against the left, there might be one that's neutral, and that's when they've come up with a really good idea that's got bipartisan support or something like that. But we've got an election in a month's time, and our right is very Trumpy, and they're changing all their policies at the last minute to align with the Labor Party, which is, our Liberal is actually your Trumps there. But in Australia, Biden would have been right wing. That's how far the pendulum is with you guys. Like, we got our own problems with racism and Indigenous people, how we've treated them and everything like that. We've got to sort them out a bit better. Throwing money at things isn't the answer. You've got to have systems and programs in place, and you've got to let people sort stuff out for themselves, give stuff back to the land councils. You have the same problems with your Native Americans, and you have an extra issue because you've got the blacks that you brought in. You brought them into slavery, so you're paying for the sins of your father on two things. We've got sins of our father on our Indigenous people, but we didn't actually bring. Well, in some cases they did. They brought Kanaks down to do cane cutting and that, but most of them went back to New Guinea and stuff like that. So we're not without our problems, but I think we've evolved a lot more than America. We don't need guns to sort our shit out. We mostly just get on and have a beer, have a blue if it's really bad, or say something. But there's something wrong with Americans. It's in your psyche to have guns and to vote for a felon, to vote for a rapist, to vote for a pedophile, to vote for a grifter. It's just, you know, one little, but yeah, Kamala has a horrible laugh, or she might like a drink every now and then. But you got a president who's been a coke addict until at least the 90s, and he switched to Adderall. Um, and there's witnesses that say that, and it's not hearsay or anything like that. It's the truth. You can see a photo of him before he was president, I think, going to a WWE event, and he's pretending, or it could have been when in his last presidency, but he's wearing a suit and he's pretending to dive tackle some wrestler. It's all staged, and he's on top of him. You can clearly see the diaper. That's disgusting. He's not a fucking alpha male. He's not even a fucking beta male. He's nothing. He is nothing. He's so fake. Like, and he calls Robert De Niro a has-been loser or something. De Niro is that cranky uncle that everyone's got, but he speaks the truth. De Niro's the man. He hasn't lost it. He's still sharp as anything. Like, he pisses me off with some of the roles he has and stuff like that, but that's a mark of a good actor. You want to hate him in some of the things and you want to like him in others. But I first saw him in Deer Hunter, and he's one of the greats of Hollywood. He's a New Yorker as well. That's a good thing. And so he had Trump's measure, and he's probably seen how fake Trump's been his whole life. People have described him in the early 80s of, walking past him at some steakhouse that he always went to, that he smelt like shit, McDonald's and cheap cologne. And that's 40 years ago. So he hasn't changed. And look, he's such a a stupid, crazy guy. Like, he's so homophobic with his LGBTIQ rhetoric and stuff like that, but he loves YMCA. Does he know that the village people are gay? And then he goes and changes your fucking White House into, if you'd blinked, you'd think it was bloody Liberace's palace. I wish my brother George was there. George Bush hated him, but he was a genius compared with Trump. I thought he was the dumbest person out, but G.W. Bush is... You can actually see with GW, he was reputed to have quite a high IQ as one of the presidents. But privilege, that's what it does to you. It puts all these blinkers and biases on you. So, if you don't have to struggle for anything, because GW got out of NAM and that as well by serving in some sort of like Coast Guard thing, but he was apparently never there as well. He was a pisshead drunk. Trump wasn't a drunk because his brother was, but Trump was a cokehead. So, which is worse? I don't know. Yeah, it's up to the person to control it, and he's definitely a functioning person, if you can call a demented sociopathic narcissist who makes every single thing about him. Like, imagine if Obama or Biden didn't go to see those people that were killed in Lithuania come back to rest in American soil. But how dare Obama wear a tan suit? That went on for months. But Hillary, but Whiskygate, Signalgate got closed in a week or so. The hypocrisy smacks over here. I don't know what you think in America, but geez, you got to do something because you won't have a democracy soon. I'm just putting this up because I've got the shits with him, and someone's got to say something. And the more the merrier. Have a good one.